5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Say, kids, what time is it?
Listen to this.
My vibe is working with young people. I've been following my vibe for about 20 years now. I first discovered my vibe when I was about 18 or 19 and had a chance to start coaching in the sport of baton twirling, and it really just opened my eyes to how much of an influence I can have in the lives of young people. I would like my vibe to ultimately change the world, of course, but in particular, I'd really like my vibe to have to be able to have an impact on young people and how they see sport, but also see how they see the world. Are you feeling my vibe?
We're here at the University of Manitoba, and I heard a little rumor
About what?
that you are sort of a very important person here in a particular faculty.
I'm an assistant professor here in the Faculty of Kinesiology and Recreation Management.
Cool, and what was why that field?
Well, my field is sports psychology, and I've grown up doing sport,
Yeah.
and it's just always been a big part of my development, and I don't know, I've just always thought about the mental side of sport
Yeah.
and being really important to athletes progressing. And in my own experience, I had a coach, her name was Carrie McKittrick, and she was really influential into opening me up to mental skills training, and
Oh, cool.
right from ever since I was 13 or 14, she really exposed me to imagery and using self-talk, and as a coach, she was really influential in promoting that to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that always stayed with me, and after I finished my athletic career, I think it was just something that I found I used a lot in other areas of my life.
Cool.
And so I thought, you know what, as an athlete, if this is so important to me as an athlete, and it's something that I can use in life, then, you know, maybe it's something I can teach to other people. So,
Right.
so that was kind of my whole, I guess, motivation to being in the field.
So, athlete,
Mm.
what did you do that propelled you forward into kinesiology?
I was a competitive baton twirler.
Oh, wow.
And when you think about baton twirling, a lot of people think of the marching and the majorettes and
Right,
the parades,
right.
which is the root of baton and where it started. So that's an important part to consider. But
Right.
the sport has just evolved into just a beautiful sport that really combines three sports, it feels like. So you have the baton, you also have gymnastics,
Right.
and acro, and as well as dance. And those three elements together really have really helped the sport progress quite a bit.
Is there a national competition or a regional competition?
Yeah, both of those. So
Okay.
we start at a local level, and
Right.
then you have your local competitions, city competitions, provincials, nationals, and it goes all the way up to a world championship level.
Across Canada.
It is across Canada.
Wow.
We don't have all the provinces quite yet. I think we're missing a major one being Quebec, and that one's still developing and growing. But it has been across Canada.
Wow.
And then at a world level, we have I think about 25 countries who are in our sport, and
That's great.
it's really really great and very
Olympics,
exciting.
maybe?
Oh, we're working to that. I hope
Okay.
so. That would be
Yeah.
awesome. Our world organization has just recently, last year, become part of the World Dance Sport Federation,
Mhm.
and that really opens us up to being more on an international level with other artistic sports. So
Right, right.
we're going to be attending the World Artistic Games somewhere in the future, in the next couple of years.
Cool, that would be an awesome
And
experience.
It'll be great. So
Yeah.
that includes diving and gymnastics
Right.
and other artistic sports. So I think that exposure for us is what we need. You know,
Wow.
baton's now at its 30th, 31st World Championships, and so
How does
we
it
need to-
compare with Canada? Like, how does Canada compare with the United States for it and other countries across
Yeah.
the globe?
Canada, we're in the building stage right now.
Right.
I would say in the early 90s, we were on top of the baton world. We won,
wow.
I think it was 3 or 4 straight World Cups. And
Is that when you were performing?
that was around the time when I was
Okay,
performing, but
okay.
I wasn't actually involved in the teams that won the World Cups. I
Yeah.
wasn't at the Worlds those years, but
Right.
but they were doing really, really well. And even in the late 90s, early 2000s, we had some world champions in from Canada. But I think since those ones retired, it's been really hard to build up the sport again. So
Okay.
at a world level, we placed 5th at the last World Championships, which
Right.
is good, and was a strong 5th. So I think that's good. We have a lot of work to do to get up in the top 4.
And this was this year?
Yeah, this was just
Okay.
past 2012.
Right.
Yeah. So, but we're working to it. I think we're close to getting there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So you mentioned in the early 90s you performed.
Yeah.
Let's tell the people how good you did.
How good I did.
Yeah. Not the 2-year-old one, of course. I'll do the 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
At a world championship level,
Yeah.
I was just blessed at age 12. It was my second nationals, and I placed 4th in
Okay.
nationals. And the top 3 go to world championships in individual events, and the 4th person's the alternate. So I was alternate that year, but I didn't go to world championships because it was a shock to my family.
Oh, wow.
And it was extremely expensive, and
Okay.
we just couldn't afford to send me.
Right.
So the next year, I was 13 and I got 4th again. And at that time, my parents had saved enough money to send me, and I'm grateful to this day for the sacrifices that they made so that I could travel. So my first one that I attended was in Paris in 1987.
Wow.
And
so this gets you to travel the world as well and get that world experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And then in 88, I got 2nd at nationals, so I got a chance to perform at world championships. And it's my last year as a junior, and I placed 7th. So that was really great, and I was in Japan. And then I didn't make it for a couple years, and actually, I guess if I'm going to tell a story, in 92, I had a couple really tough years where I wasn't making finals, and I was kind of starting to slip in the rankings.
Right.
And I decided at the beginning of that year, which is my grade 12 year, that would be my last year twirling. And I kind of resigned myself to the fact that I just wanted to make finals, and I'd be happy if I just did that and ride off into the sunset and not coach and not do anything, just kind of leave the sport. And as God would have it, or fate would have it, some people would say, I got 3rd that year, and I wasn't expected to do anything, or wasn't even on the radar in terms of going to world championships.
Yeah.
And I think I learned a lot about myself in that year. I learned a lot about that when you are performing, competing, that you have to do it for yourself, and that you have to make sure that it's something that you really want to do. And that year I really allowed myself to enjoy the sport, and I think because I thought it would be my last time experiencing it, I really opened myself up to enjoying every single experience.
Wow.
And those disappointments that I had the years prior, I tried not to let that interfere with the goal of trying to go back to Worlds. So I had a chance to go back, and I got 9th that year, and the Worlds were in Paris again.
Wow.
Then I made it again the following year. I went to Holland, and then the last year I twirled as an individual was in '94, and that I won nationals that year, which was great. And then World Championships were in Canada, so my whole family drove down to watch me perform, and that was a very special time.
So you're case in point, you're a pretty big deal in the sport.
I suppose.
It's okay. I'll remember.
You're tooting. Okay. Okay.
So you're a pretty big deal in the sport. So Leisha, I have a very serious question for you.
Okay.
I find that sport here in Manitoba, where I live, but mostly in general in Canada, is a little lackadaisical, and it feels like there's not enough promotion for sport. It feels like there's not enough energy around sport. You got kids that are in it because they love to be. Right?
Yeah.
And they're taking their passion, their vibe, and they're really running with it, right? But we're losing kids to the States. We lose kids to overseas, basketball being one of them, Iran or Iraq or wherever that they play, right? And sometimes in Europe. But what about here at home?
Yeah.
Like, how do we promote sport and give opportunity for that sport
Right.
here at home?
Oh, that's a big question.
It's huge.
I know, it's a big question. And, you know, we definitely see that the sport culture here in Canada is totally different than the beast in the States. We can't
Right.
even really compete, and part of it's population, but, you know, I think part of it's too just the way we value sport. And, you know, there's some great researchers here in our faculty who do a lot of work on sport value and how we value sport and what types of what are the different components of sport that lead it to be extremely popular or that lead it to be something that's not so popular.
Okay, but I understand what you're saying, and that's research, and that's great, right? But does it not just take some money, and we just say, here is the funding for this sport program, so that we can be competitive in the Olympics, so that we can be competitive in your university basketball teams, you know, soccer teams, and everything else.
Right.
And we can be competitive throughout high school.
Well, of course, if you have
Right.
more money, of course you can put it in sport and developing sport. But and I think if we're thinking of commercializing sport, then definitely
Right.
yes, we need to put more money into advertising, put more money into the way the players look. You know,
Right,
because
right.
perception is a lot of reality. You know what
For
you
sure.
see. So
Yeah.
so we do need to spend that way. But I also do think that we need to invest at those grassroots levels as well in terms of building sport. You know, what happens in Canada is we start to panic when the Olympics start coming around,
Right.
and we think, oh my gosh, we haven't put enough money into our athletes and all that, and we start developing programs that will give athletes an extra boost and just help them just to get to the Olympics.
Right,
You know, and we
right.
don't think about what the athletes are going to do after the Olympics,
Right,
or
right.
or how are we going to allow them to be successful in the long term or
Right.
here in Canada. And I think we have to think of that more long-term plan in terms of sport development.
Like, I think Canada is by far the greatest country in the world because of its structure and morale and maybe that passive-aggressive behavior, right,
Yeah.
that Canada displays at times. But I think when it comes on to something as sport, the aggressiveness in sport should also be competitive, or it should maybe correlate with its aggressive marketing.
Yeah,
You know?
definitely. You know, but at the base of that, or not base of it, but at the heart of it are the athletes, and
Right.
and we have to remember that many of our athletes are, you know, their parents, they're working jobs, they're, you know, unlike maybe other countries who are more aggressive, where their athletes don't work. Their job
Right.
is to be an athlete, and
Right.
we pay them as such to be an athlete. And we don't have that structure here in Canada where our athletes can just be more relaxed and more focused just
Right.
on their sport performance.
Right.
And I think it's also just building the base. You know, when we think about sport development, and you know, most of my own research looks at positive youth development, how to build positive kids in sport. We need a bigger base at the grassroots level.
Okay, where is that
so that we
grassroots
can have
level? Where is that?
kids. That's in the communities,
Uh-huh.
within sport clubs.
Right.
You know, at the really base recreational level sport, we have to also put more money into that, so that we can have proper coaching at that
Right.
level.
Yeah.
And we have, you know, maybe we have to use our more high performance coaches at those grassroots levels, so that they can really feel like the kids feel more competent, because the idea of competency and feeling more confident about what they're
Right.
doing, that's what makes them stay in sport.
Right.
You know, friends are a big part of it, of course, but a lot of it is kids just want to feel competent. If you can do something,
Right.
you'll stay with it.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
if you feel like you start a sport, you didn't really get the training that you needed, I'm not developing
Creates
as well.
boredom. You're bored, you leave.
You're bored,
right?
yeah. Some of the kids who are very natural at that sport, they'll progress and they'll go through.
Right.
But there's some kids that do need that extra coaching, that need that extra teaching. And if we don't have coaches in place who can really help with that, with that sport development, then you know,
What
we're
about
definitely
schools? What about like high schools, junior highs, and that type of stuff? Like, I hear the necessity for going into sport clubs and community clubs and stuff, but I'm also seeing that a lot of kids are not frequenting them.
Right, exactly,
Right?
yeah.
So I mean, you almost have to market again around getting them there.
Yeah,
But they're at school.
yeah, that's
I
true.
mean, I know the dropout rate is crazy, and
Yeah.
you know, kids are all over the place. But for the most part, they're at school, and they're at school, especially at those tender ages when their minds are sponges and they're not sort of introduced to different things that can kind of create them to go different ways,
And
right?
kids remember their school sport experience.
And
They
of course,
remember being
I remember mine like
in
yesterday.
sport being in school,
Yeah.
and so I think that's a great idea and a very wise way that we can be investing money into building the sports, not just in school, but that idea of linking school and community together,
Right.
so that the schools and the community feel like they're working towards the same goal,
That's
and
right.
there's not as much competition there. So
There it is.
we have to
There it
definitely
is.
work
Yeah.
at how can we help build that base, and that's a great point. We do have to, you know, also get into the schools, and and we have to bring different sports to schools too. You know, not just the same sports, but you know, in terms of kids finding their gifts and finding what their vibe is.
Right.
You know, sometimes in school sport they don't have the opportunity to do that. So I think for sure the curriculum is starting to change that way, where kids and youth are getting exposed to different things, but more has to be done. We definitely have
And
to put
one
more
of the
money
things
in
that I
way.
see for schools is there needs to be, especially during the summer months, they have to be open. Open the schools up, allow these kids to have a place to go other than just the community centers, because one can make an argument, oh, that's just for community centers, but I know that there's policy out there for this.
Yes.
And it needs to be open so the kids can go in there, and then there needs to be tournaments and stuff like that to encourage kids to want to play ball.
Right. It's also like you
Well,
play ball.
I'm playing
play
ball. 32 points in grade 7, about 40 points in grade 8. I can go on and on. But or
Let's also
baton
play,
or
yes,
everything else.
or baton.
Yeah.
I think it's the other. Yeah, it's those. As you said, it's that link and opening the schools in the summer.
Yeah.
That's huge. And then using sport not only as an opportunity to build their skills, but like their physical skills.
Right.
But also using sport as an opportunity to build those life skills that we talked about.
Self-confidence.
So
yeah.
teaching kids, but having a deliberate approach to
Right.
teaching kids about how through sport you can learn about time management. How
Right.
through sport you can learn about being more confident. How through sport you can learn about managing your emotions
That's
and
right.
managing your anger and managing those things. So, so I know when we partnered with Community Vibes to do that study with ERCOM and
Right.
looking at
Right.
how to incorporate life skills into a program, you know, that was definitely a really good start. And there's a great model in the field that I research for sure, looking at how to incorporate life skills into sport. So opening sport in the summer, the schools in the summer for sport is a fantastic idea, and that definitely has to be done. And not only to build that, but also to help kids learn about other things other than just what they're learning.
You know what I would like to see, and I would love, we partnered with the university on that level once before, but what I would like to see is school tours. I would like to see school tours designed to encourage kids and prepare them for the summer months when different style tournaments or different things, just different services through sport are offered to the communities.
And I think...
and do it with school pride.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like let the school that's there, for example, I'll just take any school like Sisler or Glen Lawn or whatever, let them get the benefit of all of that.
Yeah,
I would love to see that.
And to come full circle, when you talk about the American model, that's
Right.
that's what it is. It
That's
really
what
is
they do.
about building
Yeah.
school pride at that
Right.
high school level.
Right.
And that's why you get high school football games where there's hundreds and thousands of
Right.
100,000 people there.
That's right.
They build that school pride, and that carries into their college university
Right.
system.
Right.
So we really have to make a more concerted effort of building that school pride and having kids be more proud to be
Right.
involved in sport, and really, and the kids who are excelling here in sport, and we have so many talented athletes in this
So
province,
many,
of really giving an opportunity to feel like a superstar,
Yeah.
to feel like they're they're out there, and it's another thing that the research points to. I always bring back to research, but is idea of recognition, the importance of recognition.
It's very important
in terms of building pride and
your confidence
and that part.
If I never heard good job, and I'm sure you're the same, right? Being an athlete, if we never heard good job, why would we still continue in the field that we're into?
Exactly.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I feel like these kids, you could be as competitive as you can here, and you may be number one coming out of Winnipeg.
Right.
But then you go to the States.
Right.
And I'm not dissing any of our kids here because they're good, they're fast enough, they're big enough, they're strong enough, they're smart enough. But you go to the States, and they've been, since they were yay high, already integrated into getting that self-confidence, building up the resources, having a coach that's just specifically on them to task.
Right.
And all the way up through high school, into college, how do you compete?
It's very difficult for us to compete.
And it's already hard for them to compete because everybody's doing that at that level.
Yeah.
And now you're coming from Winnipeg, Manitoba, and you beat out everybody here and you feel great, but then you go over there and it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, but we
It's
definitely,
tough,
but
right?
we can.
Yeah.
There's definitely that spirit of wanting to do that, but again, the resources definitely have to be there, and I said we have to just build the athletics so that it's really something that kids really want to participate in and are proud to participate in and be a part of, and I think that pride is definitely there, but I think it can be tenfold. If we can really push it at a provincial level, for sure.
Well, I'd love to help.
Awesome.
I would love to help, and I would love to give my service and make to ensuring that kids are having the opportunity. Because I remember when I was going to school, I was a great basketball player. I was one of the best basketball players out there. I will say this. And
yes.
I always felt like I needed an opportunity to see how far I can go with it. Because I always felt like, at a young age, grade 6, grade 7, I felt like I was limited to just that area. I mean, there's tournaments all over the place. You can go across states. You can do this. But it was so far away, I felt. And now in a global feel of this world and people feel like maybe things are a little bit more tangible, a little bit more at their grasp, it may be changing slightly.
Right.
But I would like to see it just blow up here, especially here in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Because all roads lead to Main Street in North America. And it's very important that we have a hub for good athletes here.
Yeah.
Leisha Strachan,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Say, kids, what time is it?
Listen. Intensify the treatment.